Hey everyone, Cole Turnbull with Coeur d'Alene Advice Givers, where we interview Coeur d'Alene business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders to bring Coeur d'Alene residents the best advice from our community's brightest minds. Today's guest I've known for many years. I remember way back when, at the beginning of his business, when he would show up to poker night with a platter full of smoked meats and cheeses. I thought to myself, damn, this guy knows what he's doing. Since then, Brad Peugh has continued to grow his catering business, B.O.H.I.C.A Smoke, into a prominent barbecue catering company in the Northwest. Brad and his team are the go-to when it comes to planning any event for the food. He's catered to the likes of Eric Church, has recently started competing in barbecue competitions, and sure knows how to navigate his way to the best barbecue meal in the area. Thanks for coming on the show, Brad.
Thanks for having us.
Before we dive into B.O.H.I.C.A Smoke and the awesome story that's behind that and everything else, we're going to get to know you a little bit, a little rapid fire. So whatever comes to mind, I guess just blurt it out.
Got it.
Favorite childhood pastime?
Probably sports.
Claim to fame?
I definitely don't have one of those.
You do. We'll get into that. You told me your claim to fame a minute ago. Biggest mistake you see made in the barbecue world?
Probably people not having confidence in what they're doing. Barbecue is a primitive thing. It goes way back to the primitive days.
Yeah.
Fire and meat, the caveman guys, and there's a lot of good barbecue out there. Some people just don't have confidence in what they got, and that's what you need to have to be successful in anything.
Biggest misconception of barbecue?
That it's quick and easy.
Go-to restaurant?
Buffalo Wild Wings.
You walk into a bar, what do you order?
Buckets of beer.
Michelob Ultra.
Michelob Ultra, yeah.
What takes up too much of your time?
Really nothing. My life is pretty good. I got everything pretty dialed in where I like it. Work's good, barbecue's good, family's good.
What's a daily habit you have that makes a positive impact on your day?
That's a good one. I think I have a good attitude. I wake up in the morning and think it's going to be a good day. It usually is.
Kick some butt, yeah.
Yeah.
Go-to favorite meal on the smoker?
That'd probably be ribs.
Why are you a Steelers fan?
I was, by the grace of God, I was born a Steelers fan.
Favorite aspect of Coeur d'Alene?
Definitely the Four Seasons, for sure.
If you had to stand up right now and give a 30-minute presentation with no prep, what would it be on?
Either barbecue or the Steelers. You ready?
Yeah. Okay. That about sums it up for that. We'll dive into B.O.H.I.C.A Smoke, and if you want to share kind of the backstory of how you maybe got into smoking, smoking food. You don't just smoke meat, right? I always say smoking meat, but I'll probably say it 80 times today. Sure. But smoking cheese, you smoke meat, whatever. How did you get into it?
Well, the rapid fire question about the Steelers ties in really well. I have 6-8 buddies that always come over every Sunday, and we watch the Steeler games for probably the last 25 years. We have a football party in my house all the time, and I was always barbecuing something. Steelers usually have 10 o'clock games, so halftime I'd throw something on the grill. They'd bring the beer. We'd watch the game, barbecue. They're like, hey, Brad, this is really good. You should get into a competition. You should try doing this professionally. And didn't think too much about it. And then they got together and got in a competition, and I did well in that. Thought, well, maybe I can do this. And got real interested in barbecue, doing a lot of that. Was intrigued by the smoking. It's a lot different than just your regular backyard barbecue. It's a long, low, and slow process. In that aspect, low temperature for long periods of time on different cuts of meat. Cheeses, I like smoked cheese. Thought I'll give this a try. Tried it, melted a bunch of it, fell through the grill. Terrible mess. I've ate some terrible, terrible stuff off my smoker. I've also turned out some very good meals that people want over and over again. Cheeses are cold smoked. I smoke under 100 degrees, just enough to get the cheese warm and the oils to come out of it. It's about a 4-hour process to smoke the cheese, as opposed to a brisket, which is 16 hours.
Yeah.
That's the toughest cut of meat, I think, to perfect is a brisket by far. And we're not bad at it. We're not the best at it, but it comes out really good. It's tender, flavorful. There's always room for improvement in everything, and that's what's unique about barbecue guys. They're always trying to perfect their craft, their skill.
Right, like
And-
that's a never-ending battle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You're like, man, I really nailed that one. I find myself, I just have my little at-home smoker. I'll smoke pork butts, and that's usually my go-to. It's just easy, and I love it. But it's like every once in a while, like you have one just dud, like dry, whatever, and it's like you were saying, temperature is huge aspect of it. And I don't sit there and adjust, I better put this twig on there and get this up 1 degree or 2 degrees. I'm like, 225, good. 215, I'm good. What was it that when you started, doing those competitions that you're like, man, this is what I want to do. This is what I love doing.
It's a huge passion. I'm outside. My smoker is wood fired. It's all wood all the time. That's a phrase from a good friend of mine in Carolinas, and he was up here for an event, and that's one of his hashtags. That's his logo is all wood all the time, and you get really flavorful meats off of different woods as opposed to pellets or charcoal, depending on what you're using.
Mm-hmm.
Any fruit wood is great to smoke with. Guys will smoke with just about anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it tastes really good, and sometimes you're like, well, I'll never do that again. And believe me, I've done a lot of that. I spent a lot of money on some real good cuts of meat, and wish I had my money back on a bunch.
Yeah, I know.
There is at times where you nail a rack of ribs, everything comes out great. They're not quite fall off the bone, which is not a good thing in barbecue. But you want a little tug on the meat. You get a rack of ribs that comes out of the smoker that's like that, and you're like, yes, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of them high moments.
Yeah.
Which makes up for eating something that you burnt the crap out of.
Right. Like, gosh, I got this to spend a bunch of money on it, and I'm perfecting it. I'm working on it, and you're trying to play it back in your head. When you finally nail it, like, what did I do?
For sure, it's like anything else
Little
you do.
nuance, right?
It's like anything else you do in life, you always want to get better at something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a game I like to play.
Yeah.
If I'm good at this, well, I want to be better.
Yeah.
And practice makes perfect, and we practice a lot, and makes my friends that come over happy that I practice a lot.
Yeah. Got to be competitive, So we were talking in B.O.H.I.C.A smoke, a lot of people, it's an acronym, and I didn't know what it stood for. And you want to share the story of how B.O.H.I.C.A smoke, how you got the name?
Sure. The military has an acronym, B.O.H.I.C.A, that I did not know about. And it was early 90s, I think probably 92, 93 area, somewhere early 90s there. I was riding bulls on the Pro West circuit. And we had a rodeo out at Kelly's out at State Line, and I covered a bull, rode the 8 seconds on the bull, B.O.H.I.C.A, and took first place in the bull riding. Well, after the rodeo's over, everybody goes into the bar, and they bring up the first through fifth guys to pay pay out their money, and they called me up there and gave me one of the big cardboard checks that I wasn't a fan of because my bar tab was probably as much as that check was going to be, and they weren't going to take a cardboard check, so I wanted cash. The stock contractor asked me if I knew the name of the bull that I covered, and I said yes, it was B.O.H.I.C.A. And he asked me if I knew what that meant. And I thought for a couple of seconds, and the stock contractor was out of Colville, Washington, and Colville's got an Indian reservation on it. I thought, well, B.O.H.I.C.A, that kind of sounds like an Indian name. So I went with that. And apparently I hadn't been paying attention in the rodeo world because every cowboy in the joint knew what it meant except for me. And so when I guessed that it was an Indian name, everybody laughed. And the stock contractor told me that the name of the bull, B.O.H.I.C.A, stands for Bend Over, Here It Comes Again. And that name, I laughed along with everybody else. That name always stuck in my head. It was my first big win on the rodeo circuit. It was a pretty lucrative day for 8 seconds of work.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, it was crazy stupid to do that. But had a good time. And so when I wanted to open up my barbecue business, I needed to come up with a name. And all my friends call me Stink because my last name's Peugh. And I didn't want to call it Stink's Barbecue. That didn't sound quite right to me.
Yeah, no.
And I was kicking around the idea. And I thought, oh, B.O.H.I.C.A smoke sounds kind of cool. A lot of southern restaurants in the barbecue world, not necessarily just the South, all over have smoke in their name. There's a big Tuffy Stone is a big time circuit champion barbecue guy, and he owns Cool Smoke. And I thought B.O.H.I.C.A smoke had a good catch to it, and so I named my business B.O.H.I.C.A Smoke. And we were fortunate enough to own the kitchen out at Nashville North, which is a local Friday, Saturday night country honky tonk. And with it being at state line, there's quite a few Air Force guys from Fairchild that come over to drink, dance on Friday, Saturday nights. Well, I'd get a flood of airmen come up and ask me, do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? And I'd always chuckle. I'm like, yeah, but it's not exactly what you think it means. It's the backstory is the name B.O.H.I.C.A comes from the bull, not the acronym.
Yeah. The bull.
Yeah.
And I mean, standing up there, kind of being like, hey, this is what it stands for. Like, I bet you if you would have known before, you possibly might not have made that 8 seconds, right?
Probably not. The bull was. There's a lot of power on those things.
Like he gets his name for a reason.
Now it's kind of ironic. I used to ride them and now I cook them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Full circle.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, circle of life right there.
Circle of life right there. So you guys do, you do a lot of catering, weddings. That's
Correct.
basically where you make your niche in the smoking world. And you've cooked for pretty much all the big names when they come to the area. As a business owner, how did you get your foot in the door to get those connections?
Well, it started off with doing some small catering jobs, company parties, things like that. Word of mouth helped us out a lot. We did some Christmas parties. Things were going good. We were pretty small. Me and my son Colton and my wife, we were a team with B.O.H.I.C.A Smoke. He'd help me. My wife does the cleanup part of it, the dishes, which works out great for me. But we ended up being lucky enough to ask to get into the kitchen out at Nashville North. And with Jeremy McComb being Nashville recording artist, he brought some people out there. Colt Ford, they'd come out there, play a concert. He put our name out there. to his friends that were coming through town, hey, if you want some good barbecue, come to this guy. If you're in the Northern Idaho area, get a hold of these guys. They got great barbecue. We got lucky enough to get in with the North Idaho Fair just for their country concerts, doing the VIP meet and greets for them. And we've done, I think we've done 2 or 3 events there that are nice. And same thing. Those guys tell somebody in Nashville, if you're playing up north, get a hold of these guys. So we've been really lucky. Daryl Worley has put out word for us that we're the go-to guys to get a hold of for barbecue catering, for their sound check parties, whatever. We've done stuff in Montana at Country Fest over in St. Regis, which is a big one. They bring in 15, 20 artists over the weekend, and we cater for all of them on site. Daryl Worley, that was with our DJ friends and Derek and Jeff, and the band came and ate. Daryl came down and ate. They went to get ready to go on stage, and Daryl came back down to where we were serving and asked if he could get some more barbecue. And Derek asked him, hey, you're out on the road all the time. You eat barbecue. How's this rate? And props to Daryl Worley, said we were the top 5 barbecue he's had on tour, and he's been touring for probably 15 years.
Yeah,
so
that
was
to make you feel good.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was a good feeling to have a Nashville recording artist that sells out arenas say, if I'm having barbecue, I want B.O.H.I.C.A Smokes barbecue.
Yeah, and they're getting the best of the best, everywhere they go, right?
It's fun. There's times where I've got to get up at 3 a.m. to get the fire going in the smoker, and say that's a Saturday. Friday night, I'm not into it. Don't want to do it. And got obligations, so I know I have to do it. I'll be a little lazy getting up, not too much into it, but as soon as I get the smoker fired up, everything's up to temperature and the meat hits the grill, there's no place I'd rather be than babysitting that fire for the next 20 hours.
Right? It's like game day.
It is. It's great. And, thank God we live in beautiful North Idaho. If it's raining, I got a poncho.
You got to easy up and poncho.
I do,
right?
yeah. I got a good little setup. Most of our stuff, it's a tow behind smoker, so most of our stuff we do is on site. Mm-hmm. The smoker tows behind my truck. We go all over. We go to Montana, Eastern Washington, all over Northern Idaho.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what have you learned from yourself, from that moment of when you were just cooking barbecue, for your buddies, watching the Steelers, until today, where you're cooking meats and being considered one of the best smokes in the country by Daryl Worley?
Well, I'm very competitive by nature. I always have been, and I always want to be the best that I can possibly be at what I'm doing at that time. And so, if we're out playing in tiddlywinks on the manhole cover out there, I'm out to win. And it's just pride in what you're doing. And I want to strive to be the best I possibly can be at this game.
So you learn that you're competitive?
Yeah, and I really enjoy it. It's relaxing. It's cool. Like I said earlier, I'm sitting out there for up to 16, 18, 20 hours. Got a lot of time to reflect on stuff.
Right.
And, I got a great family that's supportive of what I do. Great friends that, are supportive, put the word out there, have me cater their events. It's great. And everybody's, we do a lot of weddings.
Yeah.
It's great because at a wedding, everybody's in a great mood. Mm-hmm. It's a big party atmosphere. Everybody's happy. It's a great occasion. It's nice because 99.9% of the time, they want you to join in with the festivities, hang out, have a drink, appreciate you being here. They treat you like you're part of of the wedding.
Yeah,
And
you are.
we've met some great people of it. That I've catered a wedding for a family. I did the older brother. 2 years later, I did the younger brother. It just goes on, and you build friendships, lasting friendships through
Yeah.
it. I just don't go there and do a service for them for the 2 hour meal that they're having or whatever. It turns into a friendship where we text back and forth. We'll call back and forth, see how things are going.
Yeah.
So I get to meet a lot of different people that I wouldn't have that opportunity to do if I wasn't providing this service or smoking meats.
Exactly.
So that's cool. I meet a ton of cool people, and I really haven't had a bad experience.
So do you have a system that you use, to kind of keep in touch with, with those people, the past clients, that sort of thing, or is it more or less just like, hey, like something comes up, I'm gonna shoot him a text, or I just thought of this guy today, or
Yeah, a lot of social media.
yeah,
Usually most of our communication is through emails and stuff for the catering events, and then we meet a few weeks before at the venue so I can figure out where we're going to set up, where everything's going to go. So at the event time, I have nothing to do with anything. I've got all my stuff set up, ready to go,
yeah,
and we're pretty consistent on hitting times for if they want to eat at 2, from noon to 2:15, I'm freaking out.
so you don't get like bridezilla on your ass.
I haven't. It's been great. I haven't really had any negative aspects of smoking. I guess the only downfall would be a concert I did a few weeks ago, and we've been at this venue a bunch of times in the past. Everything's always set up the same at this venue, and these people wanted it different, and it was go time for hey, we're gonna feed you guys. If you don't figure this out, y'all are getting McDonald's, or you're gonna have to order some pizza, because it's not like I can just throw a
Yeah.
piece of meat in the microwave and it's good to go.
Yeah,
This
you're
thing-
on time.
this-
You're on time
yeah,
crunch.
Yeah, and that's where I get stressed out, is the time crunch. We've got our times and temperatures down pretty well now over the years. Weather's a little bit of a factor. If it's windy and snowing out, the smoker holds temperature pretty well, but like I say, it's wood fired. So the draft for the wood, how much wood I go
Burning
through.
hotter.
Yes, and trying to keep that within 3-4 degrees of your target temperature for 16 hours gets tough with the elements. But again, it's a game. I'm competitive. I'm going to win this game. So the effort we put into it, I think, speaks for itself, works out well. We've only had a couple times where we've ran into dinner being at 5:30 instead of 5:15, and of course everybody was understanding. They
Yeah,
know,
have another beer.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the social hour is not necessarily linked to just 1 hour.
Exactly. Right. If you could go back in time, maybe I don't know, pre-Bo.H.I.C.A smoke, kind of where you are today, anytime, I guess. What advice would you give your younger self?
Well, like I said, I'm pretty competitive, so I don't like to give up. I've always been that way. Probably don't be so negative on the little stuff that happens. Sometimes I take little things more serious than I should, and I worry about it, and just wouldn't worry so much. You're only here for a little while, and while I'm here, I'd like to kick a lung out of it and have a good time. So I think I would tell myself, make sure you stay positive all the time.
Yeah, that self-talk. I know it gets everyone. Like, it comes up pretty much in every single one of these interviews.
Sure.
It's like everyone has that voice, in their head at some point, where it's like, oh, it'd be so much easier just to just give up, just quit. Screw that,
Yeah.
I'm not quitting. I'm gonna keep going.
I think everybody's competitive that way.
Yeah.
Which is great. That's a good society to live in, when people help each other out, strive to be the best they can, and if that means helping somebody out, that's awesome. That we need more of that.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I mean, in the barbecue world, I'm sure you guys learn a lot, from your friends, competitors, all that stuff,
Oh, for sure, yeah,
and kind of help build,
and
ultimately
we
the
like to
best
take
food, right?
out of our catering budget and stuff. We try to take out a percentage of our profit and put that aside for charity events.
Hmm.
We like to do charity events, and uh, we've been really lucky to hook up with some awesome charities over the years and be able to provide some food for them if it's raffling off some of our food that's vacuum sealed, that they can take home, freeze, cook, whatever, heat up. Um, we try to give back to the community. We've got a few charities that we really like to do stuff for, and that's probably one of our proudest things of Bohica Smoke is being able to give back to the community.
Yeah. And where do you see Bohica Smoke in 5, 10 years?
Probably, I would think just about where we're at now.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too big. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I don't need 6 or 8 trucks towing smokers all over the place. We like to be consistent in what we do. I think sometimes bigger's not better. We're enjoying what we're doing now. We're bigger than I thought we would be,
Yeah.
but I don't see us having a big brick and mortar restaurant franchising, anything like that.
Hmm.
We're caterers, so we're catering to that select group of people that obviously are looking for caterers. We like, if you're a wedding singer, you're probably not a very good singer. So, but you're a wedding singer. You're at weddings, and we're caterers. We smoke the meat. We're there to provide a meal,
Yeah.
and plus I have another job, and family time's important to me. So I don't like to book up a whole bunch of stuff. Summers are crazy busy. We try to take a couple of weekends off to go boating, family time, stuff like that. So I 5, 10 years, I think I probably be about where I'm at now. We can pick and choose how many events we want to do over the course of the year, and we're successful at those events, and I'm pleased with that.
Awesome. And so, if you get one message out to the community about Bohica Smoke, what would it be?
Well, there's a lot of barbecue around this area. Um, there's really no competition per se. Um, we we enjoy what we're doing, and big or small, we'd like to cater or have the opportunity to cater for people that are interested in smoked meats and the events. If it's a home party, if it's a wedding or retirement party, birthdays, big or small, we do them all. One of our slogans: "If you can eat it, we'll smoke it." We'll try anything.
What's the craziest thing you ever smoked?
Um, Probably frog legs.
Yeah.
We smoked up a big batch of frog legs, and that's a little outside my box. Um,
How'd they turn out?
they were good.
Yeah.
They were good. I think I would do them a little bit different next time, but it's not something I do every day.
Yeah.
They definitely were edible, but
Hmm.
there's some other things that I, looking back, could have done different. But that's how the whole smoking barbecue business goes.
Hmm.
You learn something every time I fire up that smoker. I learn something different. If it's basting the ribs at a certain hour at a certain time, if they're at a certain internal temperature, you learn something every time I fire up the grill, and I learn something every time I do an event. Um, if it's the buffet setup that we did, the way we do it, we try to be consistent on it. Obviously you have your plates and silverware first, and then there's always something that you can do different. And so it's just a game we're trying to perfect, and we enjoy doing it.
Yeah, would you mind sharing maybe one or two kind of tips of, little insider tips that would help, an at-home guy that's, smoking his own meat, kind of maybe take it up one notch?
Just to be patient. Like I said earlier, the smoking process is low and slow. You want a lower temperature. Our ribs we do at 220, and they are on the smoker for 6 hours, and we try to keep that temperature right at 220, and we based ours right at the end. We want as much smoke flavor penetrating the ribs as possible, and we lightly baste them at the end with apple juice or apple cider vinegar. We lightly coat them with our barbecue sauce, very lightly. I'm not a big fan of barbecue sauce. I think
Most smoke guys aren't.
the meat's good. You don't need to doctor it up with anything. We serve all of our barbecue sauce on the side. Our ribs get a very light coat of barbecue sauce just to get that bark on them. But everything else is just low and slow. Patience is the big key.
Yeah.
You can't rush good barbecue. It's going to take as long as it's going to take. And one of the sayings in the barbecue world is it's done when it's done. It's some meat's thicker and denser than others. A brisket's going to take twice as long as a pork butt is. So you just got to be patient what you're doing. Do a bunch of research. There's great information all over out there on the web. Most of the time you can call a barbecue guy, and I don't hide a whole bunch of secrets. I'm not out to conquer the world in this game. I don't really have a bunch of secrets. I've got people that'll call me and ask me how we smoke our cheese. They're melting theirs. I'm like, well, you're too high a temperature. You got to cold smoke it. But like with cheeses, you want to heat it up to where those oils come out. We pour the smoke to it. We smoke our cheeses for 3.5 hours, and then we at 96 degrees, and then we shut the smoking process off, the heat process off, and we let the cheese sit there for about 2 hours, and those oils pull back down into the cheese, which has all the oils have all the smoke saturated in them, pulls it into the cheese. We wrap it up, put it in the refrigerator for 4 days, and then we slice it. It's some of the best smoked cheese around.
How do you get a smoker at only 96 degrees?
There's all kinds of tricks.
All kinds of tricks.
There is. You could actually do it. You could do it on a charcoal barbecue. Propane, a gas-fired grill is pretty simple to do. You can get what are they, the number 10 cans of baked beans or whatever, the restaurant size cans.
Yeah.
Fill that with wood chips. Okay. And you can turn one side of your burner on.
Yeah.
And get those smoke chips smoldering while that burner's on. Like I have a 8-burner barbecue home. It's a big commercial barbecue.
Yeah.
I can turn one side of that on, and I still have all the room for my cheeses. And once I get that temperature inside the barbecue to 98 degrees, I shut it off. The chips are smoldering.
Yeah.
And you just keep adding chips to that, and you can turn the grill back on to maintain that temperature. But what you're trying to do with cheese is extract those oils to the surface.
Yeah.
So the smoke will attack the oil in the cheese, and then when it's cooling down, those oils will go back into the cheese, and that's when the smoke gets happy with the cheese.
Then what's your theory on I see a lot of, when I'm looking on Pinterest or whatnot, I'm like, hey, how should I cook this or smoke it? I see a lot of stuff like people like, hey, bring your meat out to room temperature before you, cook it. What's your thought on that?
There's a million ways to do everything. There's
A million ways to skin a pig, right?
exactly, yeah. I mean, I'm going to build this table one way. You're going to do it another. It's still going to come out a table,
Yeah.
and we're doing mass quantities of ribs at a time or pork butts at a time, briskets, whatnot. So by the time I get done pulling the silver skin off the back of the ribs, which is a little bit of a process there, I'm stacking the ribs up. Well, yeah, they come out cold. They're out of the refrigerator
Yeah.
cold, but I've got 30 racks of ribs that I've got to peel, which is going to take an hour. And so those are coming up to room temperature as I'm working. And then I'll put our dry rub on there and seasonings and put them on the grill. If I'm doing it at home for just me and my family, they go on. I pull the silver skin, doctor them up, turn on the barbecue, put the ribs on. They go on cold. Never frozen. Don't ever use frozen, and don't freeze cheese.
Yeah. So you don't really see much of it.
I don't see an advantage or a disadvantage either way.
Because I've been in that predicament where I'm like, gosh, I didn't pull this out, and then you pull it out of the fridge and it's super cold. And I read all this, stuff out there like, oh, yeah, it's so much better if you get it room temperature. And I've done it both ways, and I haven't noticed really a difference.
Another good example is ribs. You get a rack of ribs. Half the guys in the United States are going to pull the silver skin off the back of the ribs, that membrane that's on the back of the ribs. Pretty tough to get off for the average guy. You can go on YouTube or anything and see how to do it. We use a butter knife, get under there a little bit, get it so we can put a finger under there with a paper towel and peel them off. Some guys leave the silver skin on.
Yeah. Just preferences.
Yeah, it's just preference. And some people like it one way, some people like it another. That's why the competition barbecue is so tough. You get the Jack Daniel's championships where there's 80 guys doing ribs, and half of them are going to have the silver skin on, half of them are not. So it just depends on the preference, and you're trying to please 5 people, and one judge might like the silver skin on, one might not like it. So you don't know. You're just doing the best you possibly can and present them with your best product. You win some, you lose some.
Like everyone's taste buds are a little different.
Absolutely.
And you're
Yeah.
like, hey, I thought that was really good. Another person, I thought that was too smoky. And
Yeah, we've been in some competitions where we thought our stuff was hands down the best barbecue that was served.
Yeah.
And we didn't even come close to getting a call or getting.
Yeah. Just happens, right?
Yeah, and
has to be frustrating being a competitor.
Yeah. I want to win every.
Right?
I want to win every time.
Yeah,
and that's one outlet that I like, the catering aspect of it, because I've already won. I've got this. Yeah. I've got this family of 200 people that we're feeding for this wedding.
Yeah, you're part of their special.
And they come up and they thank you, and they treat you like family, and that's winning right there. And it's a good time. So,
well, cool. That wraps it up. How can people find out more about you, B.O.H.I.C.A Smoke, if they want to contact you or find out about
probably the easiest way to contact us would be through our Facebook page. We don't have a website up and running yet. I will in probably the near future. I just haven't had the need to have one out there, but the more exposure we're getting and people are asking, what's your website? Right now, it's Facebook. It's B.O.H.I.C.A Smoke page. You can message us on that. We're real good about getting back to you on that. That's probably the best way to get a hold of us. We're on Twitter. We're on a bunch of social media. Instagram. Yeah, we like to post pictures on Instagram. Twitter's a little different for me, but we're on there. We try to post as much pictures of stuff as we can.
Yeah.
And it gets updated quite a bit.
Go on there and start drooling. And man, looks like good stuff. Well, Brad, we appreciate it. We look forward to, seeing how B.O.H.I.C.A Smoke, goes in the future. I'm sure you guys will keep kicking ass.
Well, I appreciate you guys having us in. And like I said, if there's any questions or anything, check out our Facebook page and hit us up. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome.